Welcome to Blue Glasses Math. In this podcast, we will explore how our self-perception as math teachers and learners influences our approach to life. Whether you identify as a math enthusiast or not, this podcast is for you. Are you a teacher, a parent, a school administrator, or a student? Join me as we shift our perspective on what it means to be a math person. Let's take a look. All right. Well, good morning. I have Kristen Acosta today on the podcast. Woohoo! With our blue glasses and our red glasses. We're so excited. And I'm just going to welcome you, Kristen, and just tell the listeners, first of all, I have a puppy who's found all the garbage, all the trash outside of my desk.
Of course, because this is the perfect timing. Yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't, and I'm home alone, so there's nobody I can have to help. Yes, but thank you so much coming to us, even though it's like, I think 7 o'clock your time or 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning. Insane. Amazing. So good. And I will just tell the listeners that we've been talking for about half an hour off camera.
Yeah.
Just
we're calling each other sisters from another mister because so many similarities. It's almost like we were like fraternal twins because I have the red glasses, you have the blue glasses. So we want to keep our own identities, but yet bond at the same time. So
100%. 100%.
And now we get to talk math. So we're going to dive in. This is great.
So Kristen, I start with asking every one of my listeners, talk to me about your math story and specifically thinking about like, what were the moments that made, like, I don't want the whole story. We don't need like the whole autobiography, but like, what were the pivotal moments that happened in your math story, which could be like from elementary school all the way through your current role as a teacher?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I started teaching. I'm not going to give the year because then we do some math, but we'll just leave it at that. I've been teaching for like 27 years. Started in a middle school and just kind of bounced around between 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But yet I had an elementary background, and my district said, hey, we need you to be a math coach. And I said, sure. So just kind of started popping around. And I've taught, kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. For me, like middle school seemed my thing. So started running around helping. And people just started poking at me. At the time also, while I was being a math coach going, oh, look, it was great because I had so many ideas. For instance, one of my ideas was like math shouldn't be rushed. There shouldn't be speed. And then all of a sudden I got introduced to reading Joe Bowler who was saying the same things. And I'm like, oh, there's people out there just like me. Oh my goodness. Okay, I kind of found, right? Right. I found this world like, oh, this is not just my head speak. Like there's people out there kind of thing. At the same time, parallel with me math coaching, my son was going through, I believe, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. And I remember in 3rd grade, we got the report card. And of course, it's like, I was told he doesn't know his math, multiplication facts. And I was like, what are you talking about? And, in the drive to school, whatever, he goes to the same school just as I do, as where I teach, because that was easy. And, we'd go, hey, what's 4 times 6? And he'd know them, no problem. But what I realized is the way that they were assessing him was those mad minutes, the fast facts, whatever you want to call it. It's called multiple things. Yes. And he didn't know 50 to 100 of them in like the 30 seconds. And I was going, this is insane. And he even told me as he's grown up, he's now at college. He's told me he remembers he found a hack just to get through. So like now he's going to get in trouble and probably get his elementary certificate taken away. But he would keep like last week's math, whatever, take that out and then like just basically finish that and turn that one in instead of doing like the new one. And then the teacher was like, oh, you know your 2s. Oh, you know your 4s. Oh my God. But what did that, again, every story kind of tells us another story. And, why is that the only way to assess children in multiplication? And so, bringing my coaching, my own math expertise or, experience together with that, I was like, kind of gave me purpose. And I was going, okay, I'm definitely going to go headfirst into this coaching thing. And so the little by little, people were like, you're doing great work in, like, for instance, kindergarten, why don't you write about it? And I'm like, who's me? And so originally I started a blog after I let it marinate, and I was going, I don't know this world. I started the blog, the mind of an April Fool, because I'm an April Fool's baby.
Mind of
goes
April
with the
Fool. Is that
personal.
blog still? That's not. Is it still out
No,
there?
because now I've changed it to, somebody poked me and said, you know what, you need to take credit with your name for all these ideas. So then I changed it over to kinethetic.com. But for those who remember me from way back when, it used to be Mind of an April Fool. So because I didn't know what I was jumping into, and now I'm like, okay, now I'm a little bit more comfortable and stuff. A lot of imposter syndrome going into this.
Oh, I'm
So,
with you, sister.
so little by little, as I was coaching, like, these ideas, especially with Clothesline math, I would do my research, like, oh, nobody's really doing it for elementary. And little by little, I just started kind of developing a catalog. Oh, I learned about the React task. Like, oh, and it's not that I'm saying, I could do that. I have an idea because this standard hasn't been done yet. Let me do this. And we would come up with an idea, and I would figure it out and stuff. And just, I don't want to say little by little, things just grew, and hence what I have now. And, going out and speaking. And so they put me back in the classroom. And at first I was like, I wanted to stay out. I really felt coaching was where I was supposed to be. I found my purpose. This is great, like, kind of learning together, because I think some teachers just kind of need somebody being their cheerleader, going, okay, we're going to learn and we're going to try this together. Let's do this. We're going to make mistakes. That's automatic, but let's learn from those mistakes. Let's do that kind of thing. So, but they put me back in the classroom, and then little by little, though, I learned, well, being back in the classroom is not so bad because it's becoming my lab. I get to try out new ideas and develop new ideas. And I'll tell my sixth graders, and they're sometimes I tell them about all of this, and sometimes I don't. And but they see me taking pictures and, videos and stuff, anonymous videos. But sometimes they're totally game, and other times they have no idea what's going on. But I learned so much about, even though I teach sixth grade at an elementary school, I still see them making mistakes that a second and third grader are making as well, fraction, you name it, whatever. So I'm going, ooh, right, place value, whatever, and doing it with all these routines. So I always tell my students I teach math differently compared to, they're used to just using a workbook, or let's go to page 47, let's go to page 48. And my main philosophy is that, and once I found this philosophy, I'm like, I've been doing this my whole career, not just, because I want to, it's not a brand or anything, but really, I've been doing this. Let's make math an active subject. And so the way people going, oh no, you're like, kids are on monkey bars and no. The way I say, let's make it active, it's not like they're running around the classroom, especially, after Halloween. Oh my gosh,
no.
It's just, let's make it visual. Okay, so you think of all the things, the routines we've been introduced to, lots of visual. Let's make it conversational. Let's give kids something to talk about, ponder about. Let's, do some noticing and wondering or whatever. And let's make it physical. We can make it physical, like Clothesline math. It's very kinesthetic, and kids want to touch. Let's break out manipulatives. Like Cuisinart rods are a favorite of mine. Let's make it. They need to experience math with a lot of verbs. We're manipulating, we're constructing, those are all verbs. But instead, sometimes, and again, generalization.
Yeah, huge
I think math is taught very passively. Just like I said, let's go to page 4. And that's all I think about is math is just in this book, and that's it. So I tell the kids, we're going to be doing, sometimes we're going to use the book, sometimes we're not. So let's, just kind of be prepared for, the festival of delight in my classroom, and we're going to make it happen. But you know what? I know there are so many times in my classroom, and I'm going to brag a little bit, that we were just told that my team, I have a co-partner or whatever, and I've kind of coached him as well, like, here, do this, since I planned kind of like our math days, is our scores just rose up 12% last year. So, and that's only one of many times that our scores have risen up in the middle of COVID. Remember that first time we were taking math scores and we're like, oh no, my scores rose up in the middle of 1%. Now, granted, this is 1%, but whatever.
They didn't go down.
That, Right. Before that, I did a whole school program and our scores rose up for the entire school 10%. You don't hear double digits
No.
in math growth, especially for the entire school. So and I'm not saying this from a bragging point of view.
No.
I'm just saying my stuff is working because the proof is in the pudding. The proof
Yeah.
is in the scores. It is working. It's happening. So I'm not, again, I don't come off,
No.
I'm not an expert. There's something to this making math kinesthetic with games and all kinds of different activities and things rather than let's just use what districts, the curriculums, textbooks, whatever you want to call it, have given us. I said we've got to do more. We've just got to do more and have kids experience math. And I think that's where joy comes in. That's where curiosity comes in. Otherwise, maybe some of these other materials are kind of dulling it down. So I hope that's probably a little bit too much of my math journey, but there you go.
No, it gave me a lot to dig into. So,
Yeah.
the last couple things you said was, joy, curiosity, movement. All of these to me are things that humans do, right?
Yeah.
And I feel
Naturally.
like we're on this. I mean, Joe Bowler calls it like Viva la Revolution" or something like that. She says something like that, right? I think like we are in the
Slowly.
midst or slow revolution of we've got to get back to the human side of teaching and learning. I don't care what subject you're talking about, but
100%.
especially in math, because I heard somebody yesterday say like school needs to be different now, right? And we've got to get on board with this because kids are just going to continue to check out. And I think that the point of active, like getting students active, you're right. It's not like, oh, you have to have bouncy balls or something
Right.
crazy in your classroom.
It's
It
not
can
going to be
be
a circus.
simple. It's
Yeah.
not a circus,
Yeah.
right? It's still focused. It's still structured. There's still expectations. So I have to tell you a story because when I was
Please.
teaching 8th grade math, this is one of my,
Well, that's one of my favorite years. That's
I
my
know.
favorite. Oh, I adore that. Okay, go ahead. I love the 8th grade
So
curriculum. Yeah.
so I talk about my experience in like the first couple episodes of this podcast, and I came to this school. The quick story is I came to this school after teaching at other schools, and it really was a geographic location decision that I wanted to be closer to home. And the school that I joined was a failing school. Now,
Mm.
I felt like I know how to teach math. I've been teaching math very successfully, like you, raising test
Sure.
scores. Like I
Sure.
used to
Yeah.
say to my,
Doing my thing.
like
Yeah.
doing my thing, right? The kids were doing great, but now I came to this other school and I didn't have kids yet. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to teach in a school that's a failing school, this is the time to do it because I don't have other responsibilities at home to,
Mm.
distract me or whatever.
Right.
So personal side note aside, I went in and same thing. There were, let's see, the school was on like a revitalization plan, right? New
Right.
superintendent, new administration.
Right.
I came in, I think the teacher before me might have been let go. I don't know the circumstances, but the point is they were like kind of cleaning house and bringing in a whole new, they had, I mean, incredible professional development, which was actually very useful. And like some professional development. And they gave me these shiny red textbooks, which is one of the titles of one of my beginning episodes. And shiny red textbooks were still in the shrink wrap, right?
Right. Right.
And I'm looking at these textbooks and I'm like, okay, they're like this thick, right? So if you're listening, it's like they were like ridiculous. I mean, for
2-3 inches,
eighth grade,
right?
yes,
Right.
for 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I'm opening them up and I'm like, oh, I just wanted to vomit. It's like this is awful. But I'm a new teacher in this school, so of course I wanted to like do right by. What do I do, right? And by the short story is by like the 3rd week of school, the 2nd week of school, I was actually calling the other district who had offered me a job, which was not a failing school, and asked them if I could like come to them. And they said, well, you can teach science on a cart. You can come, but you teach science. And I was like, no, I want to teach math.
Science.
So I stayed. So I stayed where I was, but I took the textbooks away and I put them
Yeah.
on the shelf. I was like, we're done
Yeah.
with these. And do
Yeah.
you want to know the first thing that I did with them was I
Burn
took
them.
sorry. I wish.
Sorry,
The
right.
funny thing was that the kids were like, wait, what? And I'm like, and I said, I'm not taking these away because I don't think that you can do the math in them. I'm taking these away because they're not helping us move forward. And
Yes.
we're going to do things that are going to help us move forward. And
Yes.
very first thing that I did with them, you're going to die, was I took a clothesline with clothespins
Get
and
out.
cards. I'm not even kidding you.
No.
And cause my classroom was tiny. So
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
it like literally diagonal across the classroom.
yeah.
The kids are like, what is going on? I had pushed all this
Right.
chairs to the back, to the side. So the kids had to sit on the desks, like on top of the desks, but not on the, and they were like, and these are the same kids who like a week ago were like literally throwing things at me. And I was like,
Yeah.
I am taking a huge risk here because this could go really bad really quickly. Like somebody could strangle one of them.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what was going to
Right.
happen.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Your mind just goes boom to
But I'm
100%. Like, all
like,
right, chaos is going to ensue. Yes.
yes,
Okay.
but I'm like, well, we already have chaos because they just don't want to learn from these books because they're freaking boring. And so we
Yes.
did
Yes.
clothesline. But the difference between this, I've learned something from you. I've learned a lot from you, but I actually used clothespins and that I went to
Yes.
the dollar
Yes.
store and got, and index cards, and we were ordering fractions because these students were telling me
Yes.
that 25 hundredths or 0.25, how they would say it,
Yeah. Yeah.
was this. No, what would they say? They would say 1/4. Sorry, well, they would say 1/4 as a fraction
Hmm.
was the same thing as 0.14, right? And like
Yeah. Yeah.
fighting
Yeah.
with me about it, right? So then I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
You're
we
like,
need to
game
like,
on.
yes, exactly.
Game
Give me a
on.
challenge, and I'm
Challenge accepted. Let's
100%.
do this. Uh huh.
100%. And
Uh
so
huh.
I have a very vivid memory of not just what happened in that lesson, but the students' reactions to
Yeah.
learning math in this way.
Yeah.
Um, and that was also when that was right around the same time that the students stormed the main office because they told the principal that I did not know how to do the math because they would answer me, like I would ask them a
Right.
question, they would answer me, and then I
Right.
would ask them why or how did they know, and they're like, this lady doesn't know how to do the math.
You're like,
She
what? You know,
she's asking
it's
us how we were supposed to do. She's supposed to know the answer, and I'm
right.
like,
Like, come on. You're like, no, but that's like, let's kind of explore this question together rather than me just telling you. I think kids sometimes, I'm feeling it this year with my class. They still want to be spoon fed. And I'm like, no, I want you to discover and explore. And so I kind of step back and let you all have discussions, and I'm listening all the time, but I said I want you guys to kind of stumble upon this together, and it's not going to be not going to be easy, it's going to be messy, but we could do hard things. Let's do this. But I love that you gave them that experience, and it reminds me every time, you and I have been in education forever, and we get new principals all the time, and one of the first things I say to my principal is, just let me teach math my way. Meaning, give me carte blanche, give me just
autonomy.
whatever. Autonomy, right. I'm going to teach the standards. I'm going to teach it. And, my newest principal, luckily, I've co-taught with her. I taught with her before. So she knows kind of what I do. And, a couple of years have gone by and I said, just like, but then all of a sudden, we finally got the scores just a couple of weeks ago or whatever. I don't know. And she was like, sixth grade, you went up like 12 grand. I said, see, I told you, just give me carte blanche. Let me just do
100%.
my thing. I'm going to get the kids there. And and it's not like I'm a new teacher just figuring this out. I said, I'm very seasoned. Just let me do my thing. And the kids have fun. Oh, we've never done this before. Oh, we've never done, just my first 2 weeks of school, I don't even touch a textbook. I don't even touch a notebook. Like, let's just have fun with like which one doesn't belong.
Yes.
Let's have fun with, instead of slapping them on some of these computer programs to get the diagnostic thing. I'm not going to say who, what, where. Let's just have fun. Hey, let's do, clothesline. And you wouldn't believe how much I could ascertain, the information I could get from them just from doing like a quick little clothesline routine or just like a quick little 3-act task. I said, I'd rather do one of those where I see more purpose and intent and I see what strategies they're using or whatever, rather than here, let me just throw them on a computer. And no, I do what I'm told because, I've got directives and whatever, but I kind of like, I say, wait till the last minute. I get it done. But I'm going, no, they need to see that math can be playful. Math could be, conversation. Math could be all these things instead of just what's in a textbook. So I feel you, and I applaud you for giving them that experience and going, okay, I love this idea. Let's challenge this idea, and let's discover how can we see, like create this math argument and trying to prove one side versus the other. So what kind of tools do we have and what could we do about this? So
100%.
absolutely. Yeah.
100%. My dog just made it noise, so sorry.
It's okay. And Pam, you know what I say, and I've said this so many times, but it's a funny. I say as soon as you bring out that clothesline, and you know you bring, and they see something different is going on. I said, and I'm dating myself when I say this. That's your VCR of 2025. Okay.
So true.
And I probably should update my analogies, but I mean, if you think about it, and listeners, for those who, you know, but way back when, I guess in the 1980s, 90s, you know, teachers were bringing a VCR with the big TV, and of course, it got our attention. Like,
we'd be
what
like,
are we
"Ooh, it's
watching? What are we
movie day."
doing? It's movie day, right? Like, break out the popcorn.
Kristen,
or
I'm-
sometimes. Right?
For me, it was the film strips. I don't know if you're.
Oh yeah,
and
that's true too.
And I'm like, oh my gosh,
It depends what school
film
district
strips.
and what monies they had. But yes, all the things. But that was, you know, but that got our attention. Like, ooh, we're doing something
100%.
different today then, rather than taking notes, rather than, right? But as soon as you bring out that string and the cards, first of all, every kid wants to get hands on their card. They want to participate. So, okay, let's play, let's discuss. And they'll sit there for minutes and like, okay, you know, put up their card and then, oh, what did you get? What did you know, what do you think? And discuss.
Should we
and I'm
move
like,
it? Yeah.
that's power. How
So
many times is that happening? You know, like,
Incredible.
That's awesome. You know, that's what we want. We want them to experience math with verbs and not passively through, okay, let's go to page 47. You know, I just, so you can't bottle that up. But we have to, I think as teachers, it's our jobs to kind of give them that experience, you know, in any way, shape or form, you know? I don't know. That's just the way I've rolled in my classroom, and I think it's working, but you know,
Clearly it's working. I mean, you have students who are engaged and students who are doing well on assessments and students who are happy, and they probably love to come in your class. But for the listeners who are not familiar with clothesline math, let's just go there, right? Like, let's really be specific, because we can talk about, right? Okay, so we
like
have
all the things, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the deal is you're teaching a lesson on, let's pick a topic. Like,
right.
What would be a good topic
let's say
for
decimals? Let's just say decimals.
Okay.
In like 4th, 5th grade. Let's just say decimals, because I got a really good story about that. So that's why I picked decimals.
Awesome. Okay, so you've got and what are we doing with decimals in 4th and 5th grade that would help with the number?
We are going to we are going to like sequence them. We are going to like, you know, of course. So here's what, okay, so let's just say we're going to sequence them. Do you know how to put them in order from least to greatest? Let's just leave it at that. Let's leave it simple, because that's where my story kind of rolls in. So there you go. Comparing, maybe some comparisons, because obviously you have to do that when you're sequencing them. But yes, let's say that's the goal, the end goal here.
Awesome. And we're comparing numbers that are like to the hundredths, right? So like tenths. Like
tenths, hundredths,
right? Like 4/10 with 41 hundredths to see,
right?
Like,
even maybe to the thousands, depending on you know whether. But yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right, so let's hear your story. I want to hear the story.
So I had a teacher when I was coaching say, I want to do clothesline math, and I'm getting observed. And I said, oh, that's always like the cherry on the top.
That. Yeah.
Cool. And have you ever done clothesline math before? No, but we know our decimals. There's forwards, backwards, you know, all the things we've done, you know, we've done it all. Okay. So of course, as a coach, like I helped plan the lesson. Okay, this is what you know, and printed out the cards, got our all materials. We even planned out an extension, because what I do with my decimals is, if for some reason they get it like this, I print out the money. I've got money cards as well, and say, okay, here, put these in the middle, because that's pretty much, you know, decimals kind of thing. So like she was ready for A through Z kind of thing. So about a day later, I said, so like, how did it go? And she says, oh my God, it was awful. And I say, like, what happened? It was awful. She said, you know, that basically the whole thing blew up, and the kids, you know, they did it. But however, let's look at it this. When you're looking at a textbook, most of the textbooks, most of the curriculum have you comparing two decimals. Only 2 decimals. Well, can you imagine all of a sudden giving them like 30 and going, make sense of this? And
at the same time.
Right. And put them in order from least to greatest. So the way it blew up to the point, like she scrapped it, she went back to the, and just kind of re-explained everything. So I went running over to the principal. Well, let me explain what they did. So the kids, and pardon my, I'm just going to say it in kid language rather
Sure.
than the proper
Of
math.
course.
So they put it in order point 0.2, point 0.3, point 0.4. Then they like imagine a space, and then it was like point 21, point 33, point 44. Then there's a space, and then it was like 1,000 or like point 001, point whatever. And then there was even one with like four places, point 0,001. I think I said that correctly. So basically, they put them. It's like the decimals didn't exist. They put them what they thought was place value. So can you fault the kids because they were trying to make sense of this bigger problem, right? And that's why I love clothesline math. This kinesthetic three-dimensional number line is all of a sudden giving them a bigger, broader picture that sometimes is not presented to them. Like, look, decimals, fractions, and percents are all connected, but yet we teach it like singularly, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I went running over to the principal and I said, please do not mark this teacher down because this presents a bigger, I always think mistakes tell a story.
Yes.
So what's the story? The story is they supposedly are comfortable, but conceptually, do they know what decimals are? So I said, please don't mark her down or whatever. And I always present this when I'm doing presentations. I always tell this exact same story all the time. I give the teacher a Starbucks card every single year. Go, here you go. I'm going to tell you a story because it's real and it's authentic. I'd rather
like,
be real.
It's like syndication, like her.
Right, exactly. Here's your, annual Starbucks card. Here you go. I'm telling your story. And I have a lot of Starbucks cards. Anyway, but I like to tell authentic experiences. And so I said, the kids don't know it. So I always present this problem and I kind of give an example. And I tell teachers, like, what would be your next teacher step? Let's learn from this as teachers. If this was your classroom and the kids did the same exact thing, what would be, well, then I would go back to like a visual of like a hundreds grid and say, here, let's visually show what, 2/10 is versus, whatever. And then like visualize, this is what it looks like. That's how I would usually start it with. But, the kids there are lots of zeros and points and, same thing with, percent. There's lots of ones and zeros and they don't know the difference between 1%, 10%, and 100%, but I have them do it visually. And then I bring food value into it. Like, this is a slice of a cake. This is a bite of a cake. This is a crumb of a cake. This is the whole cake. But that's what you got to give them a visual going, oh, okay, I get it. So that's my clothesline decimal story. But it really here, the teacher was so, I guess, confident, going, yeah, we got it. But here you bring in this just, great activity that is promoting, number sense and sequencing and like so much bang for your buck, literally, for just a string and cards. And she looked at it as blowing up in her face. I said, no, I look at it as, I think it's telling a bigger story. Is that we're maybe confident teaching whatever's in the textbook or whatever, but you give them like this assessment is what it really, it was a formative assessment.
It's a formative assessment. That's exactly what I was saying.
And look what happened. As a matter of fact, and it's not that I didn't believe her at the time, again, and I learned, my son, I always feel like is my first student, and I try out some of these things on him, and I was going, hey, and he was in 5th grade at the time. I said, so here, like, let me see what you do with this. And he did not exact, but something similar. And I was going, okay. But so you could kind of, yes, it's telling a bigger mistake, but yet at the same time, they're trying to make sense of all of this. And so did they make a pattern and they make sense of it to them? Yes. Is it what we were expecting and hoping for? No. So you kind of, yeah. So that's why I love using some of these routines, because I think they tell a bigger story than we're going to get with computers, and if you know what I mean, that
100%.
So this is authentic and real versus, manufactured, I guess you could say. I don't know.
It's authentic and real, and it's human, right? And it's human.
It's human. And, yes.
Gives kids a chance to be curious and make mistakes and be like, oh, that didn't work. Maybe I should, right? Also, what I heard you say about bringing out I actually did use the cards that you have that have the decimal, the decimal squares
Yes.
on them. And I
Yeah.
love
Oh,
how you
yes, yes, yes,
describe it
yes.
as a slice of a cake, a crumb,
Right.
the whole cake.
Right.
I love that. I'm totally going to use that.
They need, because when
They
I'm
need to be
introducing
real.
percent, when I'm introducing 200% and I say 100% is one cake, well, what is 200%? Well, oh, that's two cakes. Okay, cool. Let's work with that. They need to
Yes.
see that visual in their heads. Otherwise, it's a bunch of just numerals and
It's too
it's
abstract.
symbols that don't mean anything. Let's give it meaning and context, rather than just teach it
Yes.
from a textbook and we hope that you get it, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
move on to
Yeah.
chapter 5 because chapter 4 is
Right,
yoga.
because we're good. But yeah,
Amazing.
so authentic experiences that way where as I tell the kids, I said, I'm not teaching calculators. I don't do that. I'm going to try to teach problem solvers. That's what everybody's on their own learning journey. So let's teach problem solvers by giving you these experiences and giving you guys something to talk about and ponder about and question and have these conversations rather than,
Yes.
all right, moving on, and let's hope for the best, that kind of
One of the
thing.
things that I've used in when I do clothesline math is like it's the permission to change your mind because
Oh, I like that.
like permission to change your mind. So like kind of in the same way of like the vertical spaces where we the whiteboard idea, right, is having something that's like it's not permanent, right, we can move it, right, and
Right. Yeah.
so in that
Right.
case that I had those eighth graders that we started talking about, and I don't remember the numbers, I mean it was a million years ago, but it was like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I've done it since then, and it's like, well, does it make sense, right? Like, and once the numbers are up there, we usually start with like 3 or 4 numbers, right, to keep it really easy to look at
Oh,
first,
of
right?
course, of course.
Right, we
Right.
don't want
Right.
to put all 30 numbers up there first, and it's like, well, does anybody disagree? Would somebody like to move? So then it gives them the opportunity to have a conversation and be like, well, I think that this could be, and sometimes it's not this number needs to go before or after the other number. Sometimes it's like, well, this number needs to be scooched closer to 0, right?
Yeah, I love
Like
the mathematical term of scooching. Okay, I
scooch
call it
it, right?
smushing, but we'll
Smush
agree to
it, scooch
disagree.
it.
That's
Doesn't
okay.
matter. It's the
We'll
kids'
agree to
words,
disagree.
right? Let's just scooch it over a little bit, and then we
Right.
talk about, well, why does it have to scooch over closer to 0? And then we start talking about well, I haven't talked about the cake idea, but like it's a smaller
Yeah.
piece, or it's smaller piece, it's less
Yeah.
pieces, blah 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 blah.
Right.
It's amazing. So it just gives students a chance to be human. I mean, I could talk to you all day about this. I think that
I'm game.
I think right. I think
It's funny that you say, what was that term that you use? It
scooch.
gives, no, the other one where it gives them permission to
Change your mind.
change your mind. I use it. I don't know if you're familiar with, I'm going to give a shout out to Dr. Mandy Jansen.
I
She's
love Mandy.
like
She's
adorable. Mandy, we love you. Mandy Jansen. And she uses the word, of course, revising math. She wrote
Yes.
rough draft math.
Yep. I've
So
got it right behind me.
I've used, yeah, same here. So I use that terminology, like we can revise, but I always ask kids before you start moving cards, ask permission, because, if I'm that kid that put up my card and I'm so proud of that card, I don't want somebody to just move it because that's going to break my heart and go, oh, like that's not, like, oh, what did you do? So I always say, we're having this discussion, or sometimes I'll print out 2 cards that are the same, because if there's a disagreement, we'll go, okay, somebody thinks it should be here, but somebody else thinks it should be here. So let's put them together, let's put them in both places so that we're not breaking hearts and like killing the joy kind of thing. I don't want to give them a negative experience because, whatever happened, life happens. But yes, I now use the word revise because of my buddy Mandy Jansen. So she's amazing and incredible. And obviously her stuff kind of molds into like some of the routines I do. So that's the terminology I've started incorporating with the kids in presentations and so on. It's like, hey, we could revise. There's nothing's set in stone. That's why we can move. Nothing's, permanent. So yeah, but
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
And isn't
Yeah.
that just like a life lesson, right? Is that, you're going to make mistakes, and not, maybe it's not even a mistake. You're going to try something in any aspect of your life. And it, like today I was at the gym and I was like, that weight's a little too heavy, or that weight's a little too light. Right. And so there was no shame in me changing the weight. And it's like,
Right.
or when you're cooking or driving somewhere and you're like, this traffic is not good, I should have gone the other way. Well, next time I know it, at 5 o'clock, I have to go this way. And it's just like, I think the point of math class is, when I talk about shifting our perspective on what it means to be a math person, I don't necessarily know if I believe people are math people or not math people, but it's about the perspective shift of like, what's the expectation, right? The expectation is not just like getting the answer fast and right and being able to solve every word problem. That's not it. It's more of being able to think and reason and communicate with people and disagree and respectfully disagree and model your ideas and all the things,
Right.
I think your
I
work does
tell
that beautifully. Yeah.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I tell the kids, I said, one, we're going to make mistakes. Let's just put it out on the table. We're going to make mistakes, and I know you're going to love that Mrs. Acosta makes mistakes, and you're going to love to point those out as they do. However, I said, I noticed like I'm not pointing out your mistakes or whatever. We're just having discussions about it. But I'm not here to go, nah, you made a mistake, as much as you love pointing out mine. I said, we're humans. This is what we do. This is how we learn. I said, same with your parents. It's funny that you say that because when I am tasks at my school with doing like a family math night and a couple of like just informational nights about math, because it's something that hasn't been touched upon in a long time. And, but that's one of the things I told my principal. I said, I'm going to touch upon just like math attitude, I guess is the way of saying it. It's like, just because maybe you've had a negative experience doesn't mean you should, bring it upon your children. Let them like come up with their own ideals of, I don't want them to go, well, my mom didn't do math well, so I'm not going to do it. No. It's not like a genetic thing.
No.
I said, we all take out our garbage when it's full. That's math. We all pay tax. There's a lot more that you think, you do. That's mathematically. We all park in parallel lines. Some of us better than others, that we all know how to do that kind of thing. I remember that's a New Jersey thing for sure. That's where I learned to drive. So, but it's the attitude and the perception toward it that like, okay, guys, we could have fun with this. We could play. Let's like lighten it up. It's not, and sometimes everybody takes it so far too seriously. And I'm going, guys, come on, we could laugh. It's not that serious. It's, let's have a good time with this. And laugh about it and joke about it. And then, and then we'll worry about the itty bitty parts, the actual arithmetic of it all, the calculations of it all. But let's just kind of like take a step back. So when kids get frustrated in my thing, I'm like, take a breath. It's not that important in the whole game of life. It's not that, that kind of thing. And we're all on our learning journey. So you may not get it today, but you'll get it eventually. It's okay. We're all, without, I don't like labeling kids. You're a fast learner. I just kind of, I don't want to say label them calculators, but I tell them I'm not teaching calculators, problem solvers. And sometimes it takes weeks, months, years to solve problems. So let's take our time and just do it correctly rather than speed through it, whip through it and think, oh, I'm great at math. So I said, let's slow it down and take our time with it. So all those things, like all the routines I do, just kind of slow it all down and have kids make sense of the world that they're living in. We are living in mathematized worlds, but I don't think they make that connection so many times. So, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So let me ask you this. I have a question that I ask all of my guests at the sort of towards the tail end of our conversations.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
The question is, what gives you hope in the math education space? What gives you hope? HOPE. And I ask this question because I always tell the quick story is my husband, who's super like, how do I want to describe him? He's like very stoic. Like he's just very like black and white, whatever. And I said to him one day, I said, I think the way I want math to be taught is so that it gives people hope. And he started to cry. I said, I think teaching math can give people hope. And he started to cry. And I'm like, this is my husband who, I don't even think he cried when our children were born. I'm like, are you crying? He was driving the car. I'm like, are you crying? He's like, yeah, it gives you hope. So anyway, what gives you hope in the education space, the math education space in particular, like right now, where we are?
A magnificent question. What gives me, I think whenever like I said, I like to play in my classroom. When kids, because of whether clothesline math, like I just use number lines altogether. I just got done teaching percents. I use number lines, believe it or not, teaching percents.
I believe it.
And whenever I hear kids just say, oh, this just makes sense. It's to the point I stop And I'm like, can you say that again so it's authentic and I can record it? No, because I could totally use that. No, I'm sorry. That was totally shameful.
So funny.
But it's like, there's that authentic, like innocent revelation. And hence it's like, I want to, bottle it up and going, guys, look, you could all do this too. That's what gives me hope. When I see, kids doing, like I said, the first 2 weeks of my school year, I just play and have fun, but yet I'm assessing them.
Of course.
And they're enjoying like, oh, we didn't do this. And I hear whispers, we didn't do this last year. We didn't do this. I said, yeah, because, Miss Acosta teaches math. That gives me hope. When, they're like, when I see, here's another, now all of a sudden, like memories are popping in. When I see kids, when I'm doing like, for instance, a 3-act task and we run out of time and it's time to go to lunch, and I see them carrying their notebooks to lunch because they are determined to figure this out during their lunchtime and recess time, that gives me hope. So just like all these little bits and pieces, and I mostly get it from, of course, students, because I think that's the bigger piece is like, let's have impact. Let's have, them be curious and joyful and enjoy and want to miss out on their lunch just to figure out how many M&Ms are in an M&M pyramid. That gives me hope. No joke. There's a 3-act task is M&Ms, and like they're all in for it. So that gives me hope when I can inspire them that they're so determined, rock solid determined to go get that answer or whatever, despite whatever. Again, that gives me hope. So it's all these little goofy things. When I teach sometimes the non-curricular tasks, I just did one about a frog trying to jump out of a well kind of thing. But, he goes up 3 and then he slips down 2. And some of the kids are like trying to be like, oh, it's only 12. 12 days it takes them. I'm like, no. And for such a simple, logical problem, like they're trying to take numbers and multiply. They know they need to do something with numbers. And all I do is like draw a line and go, here, you just need to like show the frog doing that. And they're like, I'm like, but there's a love in that. And it's not that I'm like, I fooled you.
There's
like
love in that. Yeah.
Right. There's love in that. Like the other problem I like to do is like, there's a 3-gallon jug and a 5-gallon jug, come up with 4. And I tell them it's always a part of a movie. That's, that kind of thing. And to see them furiously drawing things out and trying to write directions and all the things or whatever, that one's bringing me joy, but that brings me hope. Okay. Like we need to, teach problem solvers here. So all these experiences kind of give me hope. And then of course, I don't want to say the greatest hope is, the cherry on the top is when I hear math scores are rising, because I'm giving students all these, that gives me validation, not necessarily hope, but okay, it's because I don't like to talk the game. I like to walk the walk. And so so what I'm doing is working.
Well, giving them...
I'm bringing all of these things. So hence between validation, but it also gives me hope. Like imagine if we could do this in a lot more classrooms. I'm sure, because that's what districts want to see is the math scores rising. Well, if what I'm doing gives me hope and is validating when the numbers come in, well, wouldn't it be great if the teacher next door did it? And then the teacher next door, can you imagine the exponential power it brings?
Yes.
So
amazing.
So it's funny. That's a fabulous question.
Thank you.
And I just giving
my signature
joy.
move.
Yeah, and I'm in love with that.
Move.
I was like, there's every podcast has one, and I'm like, oh, she didn't tell me hers, but all right, we're gonna think of this. But no,
you nailed it.
But yeah. I'm so happy about that because hope is a wonderful word, and that's I think what we strive to be hopeful, and we live on. Day to day. So you just hope and, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you have to also be willing to be human and go, okay, that didn't work. So what do we do next? Let's pivot. Let's move, in another direction. Let's, how do we give them access to what I'm trying to teach? What other way can I make that work?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That gives me hope.
Where can people find you if they wanted to find out more about Clothesline Math and the 3-act task and all the
Oh,
things?
yeah. Well, KristenAcosta.com is my center of all things kind of thing. That's where all the Festival of Math Fun is located. They can email me at thekristenacosta@gmail.com. I know it sounds pretentious, but somebody else took Kristen Acosta at Gmail. So I was like,
Very
okay, I'm
unusual
rolling
name.
with
So
this.
you're the Kristen Acosta.
The Kristen Acosta. It sounds
Not.
like I'm like the queen of all things, and I am so not. But, I love like conversations like this, and I tell listeners and I tell other teachers, I said, but it doesn't have to stop because we press the end button or because the conference, hour stops. We could continue. And we were saying prior to recording, like we all need thought partners. We're kind of all in this together. And I think conversations like this kind of help mold us and help validate, oh, I tried this thing in my classroom. We don't have to do this in solitude. We could be a bigger, greater community. So hence I tell people, reach out anytime because I love to collaborate. Like, okay, I want to do this thing on decimals. Okay, well, here's my ideas, A, B, C, like, what do you think kind of thing. I do the same thing with pictures all the time. I do the same thing with 3-acts. Some people will request. And I said, okay, let my mind marinate and I'll come up with something. It may not be tomorrow because you have a deadline, but it's going to come. It's going to come in the meanwhile. And I find stuff like all the time. So I'm also on Blue Sky. I'm also on Instagram, Kristen Acosta Math, where I put up like number top pictures all the time and just go, what questions would you ask about it? Of course, I love the visual, conversational, physical aspect of all of it. And that's what I think we need to bring. And it's just 3 simple pillars of what I call like an ideal, I don't call it perfect, an ideal math classroom, just physical, conversational. That's what it all boils down to. Doesn't matter what you use. That's what it boils down to. If you could like hit those 3, I think, success will happen.
Physical, conversational, and
visual.
And visual. Got
and
it.
Basically like everything we do definitely is visual. Everything that comes about it is giving, covers those 3. But that's what kind of been my mantra. That's how I make math an active subject. So it boils down to those 3. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
And you have a new book out, and the title of the book?
Well, it's not okay. So I wrote a book, self-published, very proud of it, that I wrote while I had cancer a couple of years ago. A lot of people know my story and stuff. I wrote on my good days, and it sat there because COVID hit and all the things. And but then people started poking at me, including my husband, including a dear friend of mine, Jen Hunt, and said, "Why don't you self-publish?" And I was like, "Okay." I tried shopping around. Nobody wanted it. That's fine. But Kristen Acosta really doesn't take no for an answer. So we figure it out, And I self-published it, and I sold. Oh my God, I don't even know the real number, but I sold them just out of my garage here.
Amazing.
Put it on the website. Here you go. And then luck would have it, Zahner Blozer noticed, and I got some introductions, and they said, you know what, we will acquire it. So they acquired it, and now it's on, if you go to, I think it's shopzahnerblozer.com.
Okay.
I think there's a dot or something in between there.
They
they've rebranded it, they have a program called Kickstart Number Lines, but it's all like a part of the program kind of thing. So, and what they did is they split up so now there's like a K through 2 piece and there's a 3 through 6, and they've printed out all the cards, which is
cool.
Wonderful. That was like the one piece I wish I could bring, but let's face it, there's only so much garage space and only so much cabinet space to go, let me print out all these cards. And they did like the one last thing, like in an ideal, situation and resources I would love to do. And I was going, oh, that's awesome. So pretty much it's my original book, but split into 2 and kind of renamed. But it's all right there on, you can find it at Zahner Blozer. But it's called Kickstart Number Line Activities. But it's essentially clothesline math. And that's really what it is. And lesson plan format. Very easy to follow along. It covers a lot more standards than just what number lines are all about. Like I said, I find number line potential in some. For instance, we have the attribute of teaching weight in kindergarten, and what's heavier, like an elephant or a paper clip kind of thing. And there's no number line attached to that, but we figured it out. So same with percents. There's, I use a number line to teach percent. So there, all these, I just kind of use the number line to really bring all these standards to life, and
Beautiful.
it works. It's wonderful. So it's nice and practical for teachers too. It's not, I think some of these books are written and it's like reading, and again, I'm dating myself, like stereo instructions, and you're like, how am I gonna, for you and I, we do like PDs for teachers. How are we supposed to tell them to read this 300-page book and which is great, but let's make it practical for teachers. So this is a practical resource for teachers, for sure.
I love it.
So
I'm writing that down. Right, practical resource. All right, it'll all go in the show notes. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for hanging out with me on a Saturday morning. I really appreciate it.
Pam.
So fun. I have a feeling
My
this is just the
pleasure.
beginning. I feel like this is just the beginning. I have
many things to come.
bunch of questions for you.
We need, many more things to come. I'm feeling the vibe. I'm totally feeling the vibe, and it sounds like I need to come out to Jersey sometime.
I think you do.
I think I need to come out to Jersey. You have a place and a space out here, babe. You do. We could just hang out clotheslines all, whether we're washing laundry or not. We'll just hang up clotheslines all over the place. So there you go.
So great. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Pam. Thank you.
All right. We'll definitely talk soon.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm Pam Brett. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Blue Glasses Math. Please follow me wherever you get your podcasts and follow along on the conversation on Instagram. And remember, being a math person is all just a matter of perspective.